ones that are currently running?
Debatable. Highly debatable. But I'm not big in the presidential election, so it's all about America.
Well,
Go America.
We got a lot of people support Richard Nixon's candidacy, but with so many people running for president already, do you think that Richard Nixon has a chance to win the election this year?
Slight chance. I think Jeb Bush is taking it, though. But
do you think Richard Nixon's maybe right on his tail, though? Could he overtake Jeb Bush and win the presidency?
Don't think so.
A well-informed citizen.
Jeb would choose him as his vice president, then?
No. Don't think so.
You don't think Nixon is qualified enough to be president?
No, he's qualified. I just don't think he's going to win.
You don't think he's going to win? Richard Nixon now has thrown his hat in the ring for president. Do you think that he has a chance with such leading candidates like Jeb Bush and Donald Trump?
No, I don't think so.
What is it about Richard Nixon that you think maybe makes him not as qualified as some of these other candidates for the presidency this time around?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it that much. I just like tune in when Donald Trump comes in and yells about how he's rich because I think it's funny, but I don't.
None of these people realize who Richard Nixon is an ex-president, is passed away, is not running for election.
Oh, totally. Maybe just not the man.
But not the
Totally.
So
yeah.
you don't think that he's going to win the election this year?
No, I don't think so. I just feel like there's a lot of other like good candidates.
Do you think
And these are the people that are voting for the person that's going to run America, our next president.
Not really. Not with the way Donald Trump's garnering attention right now.
Do you think that maybe Donald Trump would select Richard Nixon as his vice president if he gets elected?
I'm not sure. I'd have to listen to more what he's saying, but he's going to have to be pretty conservative for Trump to bring him on board. I haven't really heard how conservative he is, but
or heard of him much, really?
Not really.
Richard Nixon now is. As you probably saw, Richard Nixon now has declared he's running for president. Do you think with so many people already running that he has a chance to win the election?
Richard Nixon? I don't even know who that is.
She doesn't even know who Richard Nixon is.
Candidate running for the office. With so many people already running, do you think that he's been forgotten by the media and the
Okay, let's get you over to this screen. That was Mark Dice, and he does this man on the street thing where he goes out and asks people, hey, some of the stupidest questions, and I think I referred to it the other day. He was asking people what they thought about surfers and the holiday for the July 4th, honoring surfers. And people didn't realize what the July 4th is really about, or Memorial Day. And he does it on these various days. It's Mark Dice. You can just Facebook him. You'll come up with it. I do post his videos. He does Man on the Street every Monday. They're somewhat entertaining and somewhat concerning that these individuals have no idea who Richard Nixon is. Have no idea that he was a previous president, that he's passed away, that he's not running. And out of all of them, he actually puts everybody that he sees and everyone he talks to on the Man on the Street. And there was only one individual that realized that Mark was full of crap and that Richard Nixon wasn't running. So it was pretty interesting. Okay, this is Frank Abbruzzino. This is the Scoop National News Show. And what I basically do is I try to cover a lot of the news that is not out there. Some of it is out there. We do a review of just the basic news, and then I opine on some of the other issues. It could be a 20-minute long show. It could be an hour-long show, depending on how long I talk and what kind of issues are out there. I am live on Periscope right now. This show, though, is recorded. So if you want to see it live, you can go to Periscope and go to my Twitter, which is the Scoop Alt News, and you'll see the link there for it. You will not be able to see the videos or anything that I'm playing here on the computer. I do a lot of visual stuff since this is somewhat of a TV/radio show. One-man operation. I do everything from the Facebook to the website to the show, so you'll see me doing multiple things here on the show. The other thing is it's unscripted, unedited. I don't really have any format. I have some factual documentation that I'll pull to refresh my memory and to make sure I'm accurate on the data I'm putting out, because I don't have a team behind me supporting me. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let's get you to the split screen, and we'll do just a preview of some of the news that's out there. This is my Scoop National News site. I do want to draw attention. You can do this on all my local scoops too, and on the national one. There's I put this picture up there, and it shows you basically how you can go about ensuring that you see all my news feeds. This happens not really on the national that much, but on my local feeds, people are always like, oh, I can't see the feed, and I have a pretty good following there, so this will ensure that you see the feeds. Some of the stuff there, I put this on the wrong page. This is actually a good story, a local story. I should have put it on my local pages. It's about a guy, he was homeless. Somebody put a video out, I think it was SNN, of him playing a piano on the street at a bar. And so I shared it. Next thing you know, it went viral, and all the news agencies picked it up local. Even though they all like to say that, but they like to pretend I don't exist and they don't like to acknowledge me, they all go through my websites like crazy for stories that they can run. And it's amazing. Some stuff I pull that I know I'm the only one that has it, or where I got it, it'll appear on the news, but they won't mention me at all. So God love them. But this was an excellent story. The guy ended up he got a bunch of money. They started a GoFundMe account. He went to rehab for, I think, 30 days. I can't quite remember. And now he's trying to make it. He's trying to get back on his feet there. Last I heard, he was living in a drug rehab halfway house, and he had just gotten a job. So that was neat that he played at the NFL. This was an interesting video. If I have time, I'm going to play it. It's about college tuition and the worth of the cost involved. And Obama put out this new I don't know, diagram or charting of what the school costs and all the different variables that you come into the school, the college costs that are related to that. Sorry, I'm distracted by something. And a lot of people are wondering, is it worth it? And I was watching CNBC, and they were debating the question, because the guy, I find it astonishing, the guy said 50% of the people that start up college do not finish college. So then they're strapped with these huge loans, but they don't get the job or the salary that will come with a college degree to pay off those student loans, which I thought was a little interesting. He also stated that usually someone that does complete college will bring in, I don't know, I think the number was $43,000 a year. They'll have $26,000 in loans, and based upon that analysis, they can pay it all off by the time they're 31. So I might play that for a little bit. It's about 10 minutes long. If you have time, go there, check it out. It's on the Scoop National News. A tragic incident, this bus crash, and this is something I report on a lot locally. I know this in Sarasota County, where I'm at, all the buses were finally equipped with seatbelts and air conditioning. Another plus, air conditioning. Well, that's always been an issue, because the seatbelts weren't on there, so people were concerned that the kids weren't safe. The other concern is now they all have safety belts, but the kids don't use them. I don't know if this particular bus did or did not have a safety belt. It just happened this morning. But the kids aren't using them. The other thing is just the overload of the buses. And I've gotten a few communications, as I always do, where the buses are overloaded. So you're sitting, instead of 2 to a seat, you're sitting 3 to a seat. And obviously the seats only have seat belts for 2. So how's that third person getting taken care of? And I think it was last year or the year before, they were so overcrowded, kids were sitting in the aisleway of the bus. So that's a tragic incident. I'm not sure the specifics on it yet. Something I'll follow and get back on everyone on. This is Putin. He said, hey, look, if we go in there, which they are, they're starting to see all their heavy armor and everything showing up there in Syria, they can prevent the Syrian refugee crisis. Possible. They're going to be going in against ISIS, so that is possible. One other thing they brought up is that Russia, and I posted this on the Scoop National News, they had worked out an agreement where they would replace Assad with a government an agreed upon a government between all the different countries, United States, England, everyone involved, Israel. But the United States turned it down because they felt Assad was prime for the picking, and that it would be easy to support the rebels being the El-Nusayrs, and now ISIS, because ISIS came in after the fact, Al-Qaeda, and every other group that's in there that they're called moderate, and they're actually extremists. And lo and behold, that didn't work out, now did it? So now we have a flood of refugees. We have thousands of people that are dead, thousands of lives that are ruined. And why didn't we do this? Why didn't we say, okay, yeah, that's what we're looking for, regime change, so let's go through with it? I'll tell you why, because the politicians feed into this military industrial complex. There's money in war. It's horrifying what's happening there. Ferguson, they've come up with some suggestions for changing everything, and this is an interesting article by Vice, and it's just to ask the question, fixing Ferguson will require many of your freedoms to be toppled. Isn't that what we're seeing a lot of times? To fix this and help you feel secure and to protect you, we're going to have to take away your freedoms, but they don't quite sound to you that way. Countless times. 9/11, Patriot Act, lost so many freedoms. The Patriot Act is supposedly put there to protect us. I don't know if it has. Senate's going to hold another vote on Iran, which is good. Everybody saw after they voted, surprise, surprise, Iran came up with a ton of extra uranium. Wow, nobody expected that. That thing should not pass, and it's just ridiculous that it's even been considered. Some health news. Refugees in Germany, and this one story is talking about how refugees are being expelled from their asylum in Germany and sent back to the Balkans because there's no room for them. They need to make room for the new refugees, or migrants, the politically correct word. Obama basically came out next story saying, hey, you're un-American if you're anti-immigrant. If you don't want all these illegals flooding here, you don't want all these illegals taking your welfare and paying for their schooling and paying for their health care. If you don't want that, you're un-American, and that's what he's out there selling today. That story's on Breitbart. Tragic story here. A woman, she drowned. I didn't get to read it yet. After police threatened to arrest men who were trying to rescue her. They made them back off. They couldn't rescue her, and the elderly lady ended up drowning. So the question that article asks is, should these officers be arrested? Bubonic plague surfaced in Michigan. The annual cases are doubling. CDC says don't worry about it, but when they say don't worry about it, I start to worry about it. There's that story about the revamped college evaluation. The Pope is in here, and this article talks about how he's come here to deal with the Catholic Church in the United States and how it's fractured. It's fractured because the Catholic Church has done nothing about the pedophilia problem they have. Well, there's other issues too, but we won't cover that right now. Egypt, they cover some stuff about the Mexicans that were killed. Questions on how can we stop Syria. A question about if Sanders is good and changing the whole way politics is. A question out there about nationalized police, something I covered on a lot yesterday, and they're wondering why. This different article is asking why Obama and his allies, and his Republican and the left, both sides, seek to nationalize our police force. And a lot of people be like, oh, what's the big deal? They give them national standards. It goes beyond that. It's almost into the standing army scope of things. Lots of great articles out there today. Black Lives Matter. Can the movement advance their agenda? I tell you, they're in trouble after they had yesterday. The guy that shot the Kentucky Cup was a follower of the Black Lives Matter. They had a guy on Talk Blog the other day that came out and said, hey, you need to kill all white people and all cops, no matter if they're black or white. So that doesn't help their plan. There was a teen just arrested for allegedly trying to kill the Pope in an ISIS-inspired action. So a lot of great stories out there today. I'm going to opine a little bit further about many of them and see what we can get going on here in terms of a conversation. I don't see any questions yet. This Periscope's actually pretty neat. You can go on there and you can ask questions, and for some reason, I think I have it messed up so that I can't see the questions. Because normally you can see how many people are on there, and you can see the questions, and I can't see any of that right now. So I'm not sure what I did wrong on it. But, all right, so let's go ahead. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was essentially the Cold War and weaponry and military hardware that ISIS is obtaining over there in Syria, which is now has it so that they're no longer just a rebellion little group, an Al-Qaeda little fractured group. They're actually got quite the arsenal. They're almost at military levels. And I was going through this article and just looking at some of the stuff they have, and they talk about how the command came out, the United States command, and they announced that Syria, and this is what they destroyed in Syria for targets with ISIS, and they destroyed 184 Humvees, 58 tanks, and nearly 700 vehicles. And although that seems significant, they're saying that was just a drop in the bucket, that they have even more, that this was nothing. Look at that, 184 Humvees, 58 tanks, and 700 other vehicles. And what this essentially does is, they say that was a drop in a bucket. To me, that says ISIS has a huge fleet of vehicles out there. They have a lot more than we're being told about. And this article goes through and talks about all the different vehicles and stuff they captured, like 2,300 Humvees from the Iraqi forces when they captured Mosul. Mosul's got, I think they said 1.5 million people, and it's a city that is going to be very difficult to take back, especially with the Iraqi forces. And what's amazing about this is ISIS doesn't go out there and produce these tanks and these weapons. They don't have factories that are put up. No, they're going out there and acquiring it from cities and armies that they overtake, that they overrun. And their fleet continues to grow. And it says here, in May, ISIS captured U.S.-built equipment, including a M1A1 tank, when they took control of Ramadi. So that's essentially it. Take control of Ramadi, take control of Mosul. They acquire all that military vehicle. They even have some planes. Now, they're saying that they're not flying the planes, even though they have some Syrian people on their team that can fly them for a variety of reasons. Essentially, one plane's not going to do much against the NATO force that's over there, or the American force that's over there, and it's more of a psychological thing. But it should be concerning that how the growth that we've seen from this group, which was essentially started from the United States. In Iraq, when we took over in there, that's where it came from. Al-Qaeda in Iraq is essentially where the roots are from. And so this article goes on to talk more and more about it, how it's going to be difficult to take down ISIS, how they've just so weaponized, from IEDs to gas bombs, everything. And I look at this article and some of the important facts I put on there, and it's just amazing. On the plane thing, besides it being psychological, they're also saying it's a lack of fuel and spare parts and other stuff like that. But it doesn't neglect from the fact that they have this strong, powerful arsenal that they've built up. Just because they can't fly. When and some of the points that they got at Muammar, when Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown, they got a ton of weapons out of there. And just a vast catches of conventional weapons. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra. They get weapons from the black market in governments like Syria and Libya. But I guess the whole collapse of the Libyan army produced a significant stockpile for them, which is all well known because that whole Benghazi thing is essentially about the weapons that were being funneled out of Libya up to ISIS in Syria, which a lot of people don't know about. It's not obviously something that the administration wants to talk about. And it's not just the left wing that's been in there. John McCain, freaking hawk neoconservatives, they're all about going to war. To feed the military-industrial complex. There's pictures out there of McCain hanging out with some of these, I think, ISIS groups and some other ISIS-type style groups, which the United States was using at the time to go out and do their dirty deeds. And what's funny is now you got these, there's another article I posted out there where you got this top Muslim cleric with CAIR, C-A-I-R, which should just be I don't know how CAIR can operate. So he's out there. It's an advocacy group for Muslim rights. And what he's saying is that Americans should fear right-wing extremists more than the 10,000 Syrians that are coming here. Possibly there's some bad right-wingers out there. And possibly all 10,000 Syrians that are coming here, not one of them is an extremist. Possible. But I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if that is going to be accurate. And it's not just those 10,000. It goes on, folks. I mean, these Syrians, these rebels, these Sunni Muslim terrorists that are affiliated with ISIS, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, all these different jihadist factions are intent on just beheading Christians. How can you say that essentially a right-wing extremist that's here fighting for your constitutional rights is worse than some ISIS jihadist that wants to cut your head off because you won't follow the edicts of Muslim? The ideology of Muslim. But this guy goes on, he says, you shouldn't fear the Syrians coming here, you should fear everyone else. But interesting thing about this article was they started talking about how it's not just these 10,000. All right? It continues. It grows, just like with the Somalis. And what they say is, this year might be 10,000, next year 10,000, the next year 10,000. It never stops because the State Department doesn't know how to turn it off. And they refer to the Somali program. And in the Somali program, they said it's been going on for about 20 years. And the same with Iraqis. We've been doing this with them, where they bring the refugees over here from Somalia, Burma, Bhutan, Iraq. Been doing this for 20 years. We continue to bring them here, even though originally we said, okay, we'll take like 20,000. They're still coming, and it never ends. Even though the Civil War is essentially over, they still come here because the State Department doesn't know how to say no. And there was a congressional research report, which I've sent out some information, and they refer to it also in this article, where 72.4% of the refugees receive food stamps. Nearly a quarter of them live in public housing. Who's picking up the bill for that, folks? We have Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. There's an American couple here in my town, Venice. I had someone write me yesterday. And there was a kind of fire. Several people one person died. Several people lost their house, lost everything that was with it. They're living in a hotel. Well, this family's out of money. And a person I know wrote me and said, hey, can we do something? Because normally I do stuff like that on my local pages. And I said, yeah, but I'd love to do it. I know many of the people on the community will give what they can to this group, but we need a contact person to give it to, and I'm just too busy with my life. And she hasn't gotten back to me. But I would much rather prefer to help somebody like that instead of these people I don't know that could possibly be extremists. And I know some people sit there and say, not all Muslims are extremists. I get that. But I'm going to cover here where the high probability is that at least 1 in 10 will or may be, just based upon the demographics of Syria. And the other concerning thing is just the FBI. They got this guy here. They said it takes over 2 years to do a background check, according to the FBI. And they said it's impossible to screen people from the failed state of Syria where the U.S. government has no access to law enforcement records. So how are you going to screen them? Right now, what's his name? James Corney says that they're overburdened with the active ISIS-related investigations that are going on in all 50 states here in the United States. But what this guy Syed with CAIR is trying to do is she's trying to shift the focus away from Islamists and try to put it on conservative Americans. He's not, does Syed not understand that there's been more than 70 attacks attempted and carried out in the last year here inside America by Islamic jihadists? he says it's an illegitimate concern. I think it's a valid concern. Somalis, 6 Somalis over in, what is it here? Including 6 Somalis men were arrested in April after making repeated attempts to board planes for Turkey, where they planned on slipping across the border into Syria to join ISIS. The White House has been silent on this, while supportive of Muslims, it seems. They seem to think that it's a bigger issue than it really is. But a lot of people are asking, how can we shape the thought, the ideology, rehab these guys that come from this war zone? We're in a society that appreciates beheading and death. They have this, a lot of them view this Islamic, extremist Islamic ideology. They have the bans on alcohol and the different stuff, yet they don't even want to blend in with our society. They want us to change. And we're doing it for some reason, not sure why. And then there's the whole issue too. What if you just screen them, and then they come here with their clean records, but they get radicalized here in the United States? And it's happened. That's how what happened with the Chattanooga shooter. So how can we guarantee that there's a way to stop this? And that's the question, and it's a valid question. So, for this guy, this CARE guy to do that is just simply amazing. That he will sit there and essentially state that ISIS or any Islamist person coming out of Syria, and I think the number was 1 in 10 with the demographics, are considered potentially extremist. A real concerning thing along that whole Islam thing is just what's happening in public schools. And this was something I wasn't aware of until I read an article, who put this article out? W&D. And basically it came out and talked about how Islamic indoctrination is happening in the public schools. And how there's this big petition going on right now. Now, do I have a problem with them teaching Islam? No, but as long as they teach about every other religion, Christianity, Judaism, Protestants, Baptists. But that's not what's happening. They're ignoring all the other religions, and they're focusing solely on Muslim. And they got a couple examples up here, which I'll look at for this document. And they talk about it in Madison, Wisconsin. They had their students pretend they were Muslim. And Florida, they instructed them to recite the 5 pillars of Islam in prayer, make prayer rugs, and perform Muslim rituals. In Tennessee, a declaration that Allah is supreme, and textbooks that recount Islamic doctrines as fact instead of beliefs. And so with this, a lot of people are up in arms. And what this one lady said is, look, it's fine you want to teach all that, but teach about Christianity. They're excluding Christianity. This lady's a Christian, obviously. And it's funny, I wear a crucifix, which was my dad's. He left me when he passed away. Being Italian, my family from Italy, I was baptized Catholic, raised Catholic, but I'm not practicing Catholic. My beliefs are far from being Catholic, far from being Christian. I won't go into my beliefs, but I can't. Sometimes I feel like a hypocrite because I have it on there, but I have it on there because it is my father's, and it's just in memory of him. Just for those who might happen to see it while I'm on here talking about the Christians and stuff, and say, oh, he's a Catholic, he's a Christian, no wonder he hates Muslims. That's not really the fact. And I don't really hate Muslims. I don't like the extremists, and I don't like how how we're just allowing so many to come here unchecked. So anyways, this whole article just goes on and on, just talking about how these different schools are out there just pushing Muslim and making these kids recite this stuff and do all this other stuff, yet they're penalized if they sit there and say Jesus is the Son of God, or force, they're never forced to recite the Lord's Prayer. And it was an interesting article. Highly recommend you check it out, because like I said, I didn't realize that was going on in the schools, and I'm sure many of you don't. But back to that whole vetting thing, though, which is the real issue. You can take a lot of these refugees, Sure, there's going to be issues like I covered, the whole welfare thing, the housing thing, and all that stuff, the schools. But the biggest issue with bringing them in is the vetting. We're Americans. We want to help out everyone. But the biggest issue is, how do we vet them first? And you got this chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. He's urged that facilities are not in place for the refugees to come to the U.S. from Syria and Iraq. He says basically it's a reckless policy of Obama to go ahead and grant or accept taking in 10,000 Syrians. He was on ABC News this Sunday, Mike McCall. And he said, look, I get it. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's epic. I get that. It's based upon he blames the failed policies of Syria and the inability to move aside from power and the rise of ISIS, all of which America is directly to blame. So should we bring these refugees here since we're the blame for them not having a house, for the war that's going on there? But with this influx, we can't just blindly accept them. We've got to make sure that the intelligence community, the FBI, Homeland Security has a mechanism in place to ensure that extremists are not slipping in. ISIS has already come out and stated we are going to send out 500,000 terrorists under the guise of being refugees, and that's their plan. It's what the Quran basically says, and what Allah basically said. Go out there, spread Muslim. You'll be looked upon favorably. Don't sit at home and preach about it. Go out there and do something. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and I will be right back. You're going to see what you saw in the beginning, a picture with some music, probably about 30 seconds. Give me, pull up some more documentation, get some water, and I'll be right back, so hold on. Right, I am back. This is Frankie Abbruzzino, the Scoop National News Show. It lasts for as long as I feel like talking, then we end it. Generally, hopefully it's more like 45 minutes to an hour, and then I just end it. You can find it. I have a YouTube page at YouTube. Just go to the Scoop News, and you should be able to find it on any of my social media platforms and on my websites, any of the websites that I have out there. You can, by the time you're watching this, you're seeing the recorded show. If you want to see the actual raw live show, you can just join my Twitter, the Scoop Alt News. And every day, just before I come on, I post that I'm going live on Periscope. And you just go on Periscope and you can watch it live. Usually you can ask questions and do stuff and do little hearts and all that neat stuff. But for some reason, I have it so that I can't see that. I do a lot of Periscoping here locally when I do my local news. Like today, I'm going up to a volleyball game for the local high school, and I'm going to film that live. So I tend to do a lot of stuff with the Periscope thing. All right. First, let's talk a little bit about my article. And I wrote about cashless society. And I think it's important to understand what's going on here. You know, gone are the days basically where I can go into your local coffee shop and give them cash. They much more prefer credit. You know, they prefer it. They can do their accounting better. They can track it better. I know when I pay stuff, I always pay with my credit cards because it's easier for me from my business standpoint to track and log stuff. The government appreciates it better, obviously. The credit card company likes it. They get their fees. They can track your activity, track your trends, and possibly sell it off to a third party. But is that something we really want? Why is it when I go to the bank and I take out $3,000, $9,000, $10,000 that the government needs to know about it? What is it any of their business that I'm taking cash that I recorded with them, that I pay taxes on, that I'm taking it out of the bank? Why are they in cahoots with the bank wanting me to keep it there so that the bank has access to that cash and I don't? Where's the government going to be when there's a run on the banks, like happened over in Greece recently? And they institute capital controls, and I can't get any of my money because the bank takes it all. Because they say I owe it. And essentially that's what's happened over in Greece, folks. They're saying, you, the Greek people, even though you didn't really benefit from all these loans that were given to you by the Italian and French banks primarily, and some German, we're coming to you and want that money. We need our money back, so we're going to stop you. Take your banks, can take all the deposits in there, and that's it. You have no say in the matter. It doesn't matter if you didn't agree to take the money. It doesn't matter if the money wasn't used for anything of your interest. You're out of luck. And so, you run into a lot of concerns. How about the whole privacy thing? Banks and retailers and government's ability to obtain your purchase and personal information? Don't we have enough violations of it now with Facebook? Is that something that we really want? So this whole ridding society of cashless society has been gaining a lot of support amongst the retailers, the banks out there. Law enforcement, hey, we can track stuff better. Why is it that I can go in, I don't know how much money I have right now, but I can go into a store, pull out a wad of cash, and I'm viewed as a drug dealer because I have cash on me. I love paying with cash stuff. I pay a lot of I pay my business stuff with my credit card, but personal stuff, there's no reason for me to track it. I don't want other people to track it, so why not just pay with cash? Why give Big Brother more data than they already have? They're already tracking every single thing we do out there. And then I covered a little bit how it's just to help banks with their negative interest rates. And they've done it, they've snuck it in. It's been something that they've done gradually over time. We didn't even realize what they were up to. We just bought into the whole convenience of ATMs, credit cards, PayPal, using your iPhone to pay for stuff. But essentially, without cash, I keep reflecting on that whole Greece thing. What happens if we have a Greece type situation here? And don't tell me we won't. We're worse off than Greece, some people will tell you. Everything's paid cashless. We have major upheaval in the market, and the economy goes to hell, and there's no money out there. Hey, guess what? You can't pay electronic anymore. That's not even touching on the whole hacking thing. What if someone does the EMP? We lose all electricity. The only way to go out there and buy goods is to have cash in hand. And I'm not saying that the value of cash is worth anything. The value of cash is horrible. All it is a piece of paper saying that, yeah, the federal government will cover you on it. I'd much rather have something like gold or silver. Buy up gold and silver. But it's an interesting article. Check it out if you have the time. I'm trying to do these articles a couple times a week. I'm spreading them out between my local and my national one, and sometimes it'll be just on nothing, just talking out of the blue. Sometimes it'll be on a issue that concerns me. It all depends on how I'm feeling at the time. Yesterday, before I was interrupted, if you were watching the show, my daughter was texting me, my wife was calling me, and finally I said, oh, God, I got to end the show because I just lost my whole focus. We were talking about that whole coup and how 29% of the Americans out there, according to a YouGov poll, would support a military coup, which is really disturbing. That people, look, we're a country that's basically ruled by wealthy oligarchs, special interests, and all that good stuff. The New World Order. But when you get the consent of a large, and that's not a majority, 29%, but it's a large amount that are all for a coup like that, it should be concerning to you. And, we're partly to blame, like this article says, that the institutions that rule, we let them rule over us. And if you lack resistance and your civil liberties are taken away, growth of the government, you're to blame then. But, that's 70 million people, folks. 70 million people think that we essentially would be better off if a coup took place and the military were to take over the government. Not a lot of faith in our government, huh? And you see that daily. That's why people are galvanized by, they're turning towards Trump, Bernie Sanders. These are two people that should not hold office. But people are so turned off by the politicians. Now, Sanders is a politician. He's a retired politician. But he speaks from the heart. Now, I don't know if I don't buy into a lot of the stuff he's selling. But you got to like that he's genuine. He speaks from the heart. The other really concerning thing is that most people have lost faith in our system. They've lost faith in the government. I talked yesterday about the police situation. They've lost faith in our police. Some have lost faith in our military. And I'm a vet, so don't say I'm anti-vet military out there. And so what happens when you lose all these trust in our government, our police, and everything else in the system? You're right for a coup. And is that something that we really want? 70 million people, folks. Then you get some idiots out there. There's another article out there. Who is this from? This is New American. And essentially, they talked about this guy, this scholar, who's out there saying that if you oppose war on terror, you should be targeted as unlawful enemy combatants. And he comes out and says all kinds of asinine stuff on here. He's essentially for a coup, military seizing control of the federal government. He says it's a refreshing alternative to the established administration. And it just amazes me, some of the stuff that we see coming out there. But I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the whole coup thing. The other thing, this is something I found interesting because as most of you probably know, the NFL was essentially a tax-free entity. I think they gave it up this year, or there was conversations about them doing it. But they come up as to how much money the cities are spending for these teams to help these teams, but they're not realizing a return on their dollar. We see it here essentially in St. Pete. The Rays, they want to leave. They don't get the crowd participation. They think they can work a better deal across the area in Tampa. And we'll sit there and we'll throw a ton of money their way. But you see this type of corporate welfare everywhere. We just had a studio here that basically the county's going to go in and try to sue them because they didn't get the return that they expected from the studio. They said the studio didn't follow through with certain promises they had made. I never really understood the whole process, how you give out all these tax breaks to try and get the company to come there. Now, I get it that if you don't do it, the county next to you will do it. I understand some stuff like, properties sat vacant for 10 years. Turvis Tumblers wants to come in and build something there. But they want you to waive the taxes for 3 years. It'll mean 500 jobs. That type of system, that type of process, well, maybe it makes sense. Obviously we can't sell the property. It's just sitting there idle. We're not getting any tax revenue on it as a county or city. That area was city now. So why not give it to Tervis? Tell them you don't have to pay any taxes on that land or the setup for 3 years. You get 400 new jobs. You get the revenues that the Tervis is bringing in, the tax dollars off that stuff. Then maybe it makes sense. But you're not seeing that with these football stadiums. And what they did is this article covered some of them. And for example, the New England football fans, they just built the stadium. It cost them $72 million in taxpayer money. Now, what I'm thinking is New England probably came in and said, hey, look, we're going to build this nice new stadium, but it's going to cost us a lot of money. If you want us to build this new stadium here instead of leaving your city, you're going to have to forego the revenues, the tax revenue, for the next 3 years off of what we make here at the stadium. Then it doesn't make sense. And this article basically came out and said, no, it doesn't make sense. And that taxpayers essentially spent over $3 billion on 16 stadiums, and they are not seeing the return on their dollars by by a long shot. They're missing it. And that these are essentially no more than monuments to corporate welfare and more taxpayer handouts. And that our money, the county money, the city money, could be better spent on other projects. And they go over some of these staggering costs. $444 million in taxes for the Dallas Cowboys, $600 million for the Colts, $424 million for the Bengals. That's what it's costing the cities to bring those teams in or keep them there. And it says here that taxpayers contributed an average of $262 million to each NFL stadium built between 1990 and 2010. And so essentially what's happening is you and I as taxpayers are out there underwriting most of the risk while the teams are benefiting. The teams are benefiting. And it goes on to cover some other stuff. It was a real interesting article into that whole tax process. How I've never been a huge fan of it. I've heard different things, but I found that article to be pretty interesting. All right, so let's do this now. Let's go into the one thing I want to touch on is just the China markets that have essentially put our markets in upheaval. We have the Fed coming out tomorrow to tell us if they're going to raise interest rates, yes or no. You had the talking heads on CNBC talking about it, saying the markets have it built into it. They don't have it built into it. Not a big deal. It is a big deal. I mean, it's been, 7 years? Basically flatline, no action. It's ridiculous. You got to let the markets live and breathe and do what they're supposed to do. If that means a down market, that means a down market. We can't go in and manipulate it like we're seeing over in China, but it's essentially China's doing what we did. They're just following in our footsteps. So they had this collapse. It's a staggering amount of money. It says here that the market crashed by 30%, losing $2 trillion. That's $2 trillion in value for investors there. And what it did is a lot of people started seeing that maybe China's not this utopia that we all think it is. And it's funny, a lot of people will go around with that perception that China's this utopia, but all the time from all the financial channels you hear about China's fake numbers, that there's going to be this bubble. It's not the utopia, but for some reason they want to leave all of us consumers with the perception that it is an utopia. So the regime stepped in. They're censoring. They're intimidating a lot of the people in the market. They're putting in arbitrary rules. You can't sell. And what it's doing is spooking even more of the investors out there, more of the economy. It's not helping them by any means. So they're out there. They're struggling to prop it back up. They're trying to control the currency. Essentially using the same type of manipulation that our Federal Reserve used, using coercion. So they got this ban. It says the ban on selling shares by shareholders holding stakes of more than 5% in a company. And it goes to foreigners as well. And what that has done is a lot of companies have stopped trading completely because you can't buy or sell because of the 5% rule. And what the regime tried to do is reinflate the whole stock bubble by pumping all this funny money into the system, slashing interest rates. And none of that's worked. You know, and it's primarily been successful just from a lot of the propaganda that's out there. Like I said, a lot of people know the numbers are fake. They always talk about the numbers are being fake, yet they're always spitting out this propaganda about how great the China market is. So here they're stuck in a major crisis. A lot of people are saying, oh, our market went down. It's just part of a correction. And they define correction based upon percentage move and stuff. It's kind of, to me, it's a correction. They're saying it wasn't because of China, because people expected that. Others are saying it was because of China. I'm not a financial guy. I have no idea. But now they're cracking down. They've basically deployed security officials, and they're out there terrorizing these market participants, saying you better not sell. They want every transaction record. They're dropping by, going through all their paperwork, all their documentation to ensure that they're adhering to the regime's totalitarian policies. And this is all to try to prop up their market with increasing those overvalued prices, those stock prices. But what this article was interesting is that it's primarily to protect the regime. And think about it. Economic growth is good for the regime. If you got tens of thousands of millions of struggling Chinese and they see their savings evaporating, all these Chinese that have been duped into investing their market money into these stocks, they threaten the very existence of this regime. People might start to say, what the hell is going on here? And that concerns the regime. That's the same thing we see here. Obama, and a lot of people will sit there and say that Obama's team, his administration, the Federal Reserve, which was nominated by him, is just fluffing up the market until the elections are done, until he's out of there. But he's not the only one. Bush has done this. Everyone does this. Western governments do it. Central banks do it. Look at 2008, the financial crisis there. What we did there. And that's why a lot of people are like, well, when's this whole house of cards going to come crashing down? And it's concerning. A lot of the news I hear out there, it's very concerning. Very worrying. All right. I have a ton of stuff to do. If you don't know this, I actually do all this stuff for free. And I own, and I've owned for about 15 years, a medical consulting company, which is where my bread and butter is. You know, these HICFAs. I got a ton of work to do there, but I'm committed to trying to do this daily. So it was a struggle today to try to get enough stuff to come on the show because I'm, like I said, one-man operation, doing my Facebook, the website, and everything, and sometimes it's a struggle to get it all out there. And then I don't have enough time to try to find some subjects and research it good enough, and so you come on with what you can or what you're already knowledgeable of. It's a whole project. It's not like, it'd be great if I was making a good enough money to come on and do this where I could commit all my days to this, where I could go out and do the research. I could come on with the research and just focus solely on the news. Unfortunately, if you were to take my day, I probably get 30% of my day where I can focus on it. A lot of times I'm out here sharing stuff, and that's because I'm on hold with an insurance company or an attorney or a clinic. And a lot of times you'll sit on hold for 10, 20, 30 minutes. or I'm sitting there in the software, and the software will sit there and just get really sluggish and slow. So I'll just pop back and I'll share and stuff, and I'm multitasking. And so a lot of people think, oh, he just sits in front of the computer, he doesn't have a job. It's actually, I'm sitting in front of the computer on hold, and instead of just sitting there doing nothing, I post stuff. So we're going to leave it at that. If you are here local and you go to the high school and you want to see the volleyball game, catch me on, I always forget the name of this live thing that I'm doing here. Periscope. Catch me on Periscope. I should be back tomorrow, and we'll have hopefully a better show for you, more prepared. I don't have that much work after I knock out a couple hours here, so then I have more time to plan for it. For Francesco Abbruzzino, everybody have a great day. Visit thescoopnationalnews.com for the latest news and information. Everybody have a great one.